Hello, Tom Maguire. I want to review the most surprising book that I've listened to or read over the past couple of years, and that's kind of about 180 books that I've read and listened to in that period of time. This book is really surprisingly good. It's called Storyworthy, Engage, Teach, Persuade and Change Your Life Through the Power of Storytelling by someone called Matthew Dix. The front cover on Audible is a little bit rubbish, to be honest, but don't let that put you off. I think, like a lot of stuff in the book, Matthew Dix has probably done that deliberately. Before we continue though, I just want to say that this is one of those rare books that I call instructional personal development, that if you follow the advice in this book, I genuinely think it will make a positive difference to your life in one way or another. The other book that I read in the past couple of years that I would kind of liken to that is Never Split the Difference by Voss. He was the ex-hostage negotiator, and he wrote a book on negotiating. And it's kind of in the same way that negotiation is a skill that you can use in your life in lots of different areas of your life. You know, not just in business, not just in hostage negotiating, but you can spread it across all different things in life. Negotiating is a really important key skill to have. I've come to realise from reading this book that storytelling is also really important, and this book is fantastic at helping you, giving you an instructional kind of manual backed up by some really nice examples, really interesting examples, on how you can become a better storyteller, how you can kind of practice certain disciplines each day to become better at storytelling. And this wasn't really something that I considered to be a big deal to begin with, but once I'd listened to this book, I'm totally converted for sure. I have read other books along the lines of kind of creative writing as well, On Writing by Stephen King, and a few others that I can't think of at the top of my head. But this is just absolutely brilliant. There's another one, A Million Miles in a Thousand Years, or 1,000 Miles in a Million, A Million Miles in a Thousand Years by Donald Miller, who also did Story Brand, which I really enjoyed. I reviewed that a little while ago as well. Donald Miller's fantastic as well. But this book, Storyworthy by Matthew Dix, absolutely fantastic. Give it a go. It's really good, the audio version. I think it's narrated by Matthew Dix. I made that mistake in one of my previous reviews. I said it was narrated by the author and it wasn't. I'm pretty sure it is this one. Yeah, I'm certain it is because I've heard him on YouTube as well and he's got the same voice. He's got quite a distinctive voice. But yeah, there are certain books that I always feel are far more productive to kind of take your time on and go back to, rather than racing on to the next book. And I often find myself, I'm someone who reads between sort of 70 and 100 books a year. I sort of listen to about 50% of those and I read about 50%. So I often find that I'm racing to get onto the next book because I'm excited to get to the next thing. And often one book will lead to another and what have you. But I really found with this one, by the time I'd finished it, that I raced into something new and I wasn't really listening to the new book. I was kind of still thinking about Storyworthy. So I think it's really worthwhile. Kind of pondering this book a little bit, going back over it, making some notes and making sure you fully understood it before you move on. And I certainly need to do that. I have been doing that. At the end of the day, you've got to ask yourself, what's more important, getting through the highest number of books or actually getting through a number of books and kind of the quality of that and making sure that it impacts you properly and that it changes you in a positive way. I've said many times before on this channel that I started this channel to improve my ability to kind of think on my feet and to talk about the books that I've read and listened to. I also want to leave reviews for my kids so they can laugh at me being a goofball and trying to be a YouTuber. But I also want them to have a bit of an idea of the books that I read and listened to over the years and how they sort of shaped me, and they can sort of take and leave from that what they will. But this is definitely one of those books that I'd be keen for them to look at as they grow up, for sure. And when they get older, they're only 5 and 3 at the minute, but when they get older I will be kind of encouraging them to look at this sort of book. I think it's really useful. So before we go any further, I'm just going to give you a quick bit of information on Matthew Dix, then I will kind of cover what I thought was really great about the book, if I haven't kind of sort of said that already to a certain extent. I'll give you a couple of things in the book that we can use from a personal development point of view, which I always like to do on this channel. And then I'll kind of go over some of the bits that grated on me a little bit, but in the end I actually came to like those bits as well. But I will let you know what I meant by that. You may well agree. So Matthew Dix has been an elementary school teacher since 1999, And for those of us here in England, that's the same as primary. He also owns and operates a DJ company, Jam Packed Dance Floor DJs. He's been entertaining at weddings since '97. He also works as a speaking coach, a leadership coach, and a marketing and communications consultant. And he also works apparently as a minister of the Universal Life Church, but don't worry, there's nothing in here. There's no religious preaching or anything like that. I know a lot of people are really put off by that sort of thing and kind of allergic to it. I didn't get any sense of anything like that from the book whatsoever. But yeah, I looked him up and apparently he's charging about $300 an hour for coaching. So, you know, quite good to think that you could have a conversation with him if you wanted to. He seems like a pretty talented guy as far as I can tell. I really recommend coaching. I think it's brilliant. I coach myself as well. But I'm actually looking for another coach at the minute. My last one, I feel like I've kind of outgrown a little bit. So I could be tempted to give him a call at some point, to be honest. But yeah, I think he could be good. So he also wrote a children's storybook called Memoirs of an Imaginary Friend, which gets good reviews. I'll take a look at that as well at some point. I love reading my kids really good stories, and I get excited about, as they get older, reading them the stuff that I used to read as well. So that's another one I'll be looking at. I really like the concept of this book, Storyworthy. I just think, you know, he gives you some disciplines that you can do each day. Something called Homework for Life, which is basically 15 minutes every day. At the end of the day, go back over your day, what happened in your day to kind of set it apart. What kind of story can you take from the day? And he just says, just literally a few lines, just do it in a kind of spreadsheet, just note a few things down, and in time you can look back over. And for me, that works alongside journaling. I really like journaling, and so I've kind of adapted my journaling now to kind of be a bit more creative and think about what sort of things have happened in my day a bit more uniquely that I could take a story from. And I'm thinking now each day how I can kind of shape a story using some of the techniques that he's talked about in this book. He really bangs on about the fact that a good story has to have a good human element to it. You know, something where where you yourself have experienced some kind of change or growth or realization of some kind. He talks about the importance of humor and making people laugh, and that people want to be made to laugh and entertain, but actually the stories that stay with people are the ones that move them emotionally. He makes the point that if you're presenting for an hour to 20 people, that's 20 hours worth of time that you're taking up, and actually you should be thinking creatively and telling a story so that it can kind of actually make a difference to people. It's an opportunity to be entertaining, and it's an opportunity to set yourself apart from the rest as well. He was talking to a CEO of a engineering company in Brazil, and the guy was saying how he'd rather take on poorly qualified, not particularly great engineers who are able to actually sell the product by talking to people and presenting to people, and you know, good sort of storytelling, good communicating types. He'd rather give the job to them than to people who are highly qualified, good engineers who can't do that, because he can always teach people to be better engineers, but he reckons he can't teach people to be good communicators. And I think there's a key point to that. Jordan Peterson as well, I often mention him. He's always talking about the importance of communication, of writing and speaking, and expressing yourself clearly. So yeah, really, really good book. I wanted to kind of do this book real justice in this review, but like I say, as I said before, these reviews, I do them in one hit. I said right from the beginning with these YouTube reviews that I wouldn't take too much time up with them. I just get them done. It's about getting the content out there. I hope that's useful for you. Please keep liking and subscribing. It's a fantastic book, and I'll be back again soon. Cheers.